So today, we're going to dive into a parenting culture that honestly might seem a little shocking at first glance. We're looking at the Danish way of raising kids, and some of their practices, which might seem totally wild to many of us, are just completely normal in one of the world's happiest countries. Let's get into it. All right, so let me just start with a question for you. Picture this. You're at a nice little coffee shop. Would you leave your sleeping baby in their stroller on the sidewalk, outside, all alone, while you go inside to enjoy your coffee? I'm guessing for most of us the answer is a quick and very firm, absolutely not. But here's the thing. In Denmark and a lot of Scandinavia, that's not some crazy hypothetical. It's just what people do. It's an everyday thing. Seriously, if you walk through a city like Copenhagen, you'll see strollers just parked outside cafes, shops, apartments, often with a baby bundled up and sleeping peacefully inside. So the obvious question is, why? I mean, what is the logic behind leaving your baby to sleep outside, sometimes when it's freezing cold? Well, it all boils down to this deeply held belief in the power of fresh air. This quote here from Annie Samples, she's an American living in Denmark who actually went viral for talking about this, it just perfectly captures that feeling of culture shock. She points out that parents are, of course, keeping a close eye on them or using a baby monitor, but the act itself? Totally standard. It's a perfect example of seeing your own world through a completely different lens. So, the core belief, and this is often recommended by midwives and nurses there, is that all that crisp, fresh air is just plain good for them. Parents swear that it helps their kids sleep better and for longer, and that it helps build up their resilience. And of course, they aren't just leaving them out there to freeze. They are bundled up so carefully in warm clothes and these super insulated strollers, even in weather down to -10 Celsius, which is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And this isn't just some random, quirky thing about naps. It's actually part of a much bigger cultural idea called friluftsliv. It roughly translates to open-air living, and it's this old Nordic philosophy about making a connection with nature a basic, fundamental part of your everyday life. For Danish babies, it seems that connection starts pretty much from day one. Okay, so this trust in nature and fresh air, it goes way beyond just nap time. It actually extends to a much broader philosophy of childhood, one that's all about embracing play, encouraging a little bit of risk, and really fostering independence from a super early age. And nothing, I mean nothing, captures this better than this story. A Danish professor was asked to find one single image that represented Danish childhood. And what did she pick? A photo of a little girl happily using a very real and very sharp saw. The whole idea is that kids learn by doing, and that includes doing things that many other cultures might see as way too dangerous. And here you can really see the contrast. In places like the US or the UK, a lot of early childhood is about school readiness, letters, numbers, getting a jump on academics. But in Denmark, the focus is almost entirely on child-led free play. It's about independence, not structured learning. The goal is to care for the whole child, not just to formally teach them. And they actively embrace risk instead of trying to avoid it at all costs. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. They make a distinction between a kid getting seriously hurt, like, breaking an arm, and the normal bumps and bruises of being a kid. Those little injuries, they aren't seen as a failure of parenting. They're seen as a necessary part of learning. A bruise is just proof that you're out there experiencing life. You fall, you get up. Okay, so this brings us to the most crucial question of all. How is any of this even possible? Now, I want to be crystal clear about this part. This is an explainer about cultural differences. It is not a suggestion for anyone outside of Scandinavia to try these things, because the Danish approach is built on a foundation, a whole society that is just fundamentally different. Take a look at this number. Just 3. In a country of almost 6 million people, what do you think that number could possibly represent? That's it. That's the total number of kidnappings in Denmark over the past 3 decades. It's an unbelievably low number, and that statistic right there is what underpins this entire high-trust society. Parents don't worry about their baby being snatched from a stroller because, well, it just doesn't happen. And this incredible level of trust is supported by a really robust social safety net. We're talking about a strong welfare system, affordable and truly high-quality childcare for basically everyone, really generous parental leave policies that support new families, and just this general community feeling that, yeah, people look out for each other's kids. It's just custom. So what happens when you take these cultural norms, out of that very specific, very unique context, well, that's when things can go really, really wrong. There's this very famous real-life case of a Danish couple who were visiting New York City. And they did what they would do any day of the week back home. They found a restaurant they liked, and they left their sleeping baby in her stroller on the sidewalk right outside while they went in to eat. They could even see her from the window. To the people walking by in New York, this looked like an act of unbelievable neglect. Someone called the police, the couple was arrested, and in what must have been an absolutely traumatic nightmare for them, their child was temporarily placed into foster care. It was just this profound, painful cultural misunderstanding that shows how context is, well, it's everything. And this clash can be explained by this fascinating academic concept called parental ethnotheories. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. Our beliefs about the right way to be a parent aren't universal truths. They are deeply ingrained, culturally specific scripts that we all follow, a lot of the time without even thinking about it. And the Danish script and the American script are just fundamentally different. This whole philosophy has been explored in popular books like The Danish Way of Parenting. And the central argument is that this focus on trust, on play, and on authenticity, it helps raise kids who are resilient, confident, and capable. And hey, maybe that's one of the reasons Denmark so consistently ranks as one of the happiest countries on earth. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If the Danish way of parenting is a reflection of a society built on trust, community, and a connection to nature, what are our own parenting norms? Our fears, our priorities, our unwritten rules, what do they say about the societies that we live in? It's a pretty fascinating question. Thanks for tuning in.